Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. His name is Terrell Hughes, and he is the public director of public works at Henrico County. Terrell, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be here.
So, Terrell, it's Henrico County. When you look at it, it says Henrico. Tell us the story behind that.
Yeah, it's pronounced Henrico County, and we're real sensitive about that here. But it's kind of funny. The county, the origins of the county, it's actually named after Prince Henry back from England. So it's
Okay.
Prince Henry County. So you would almost think it would be Henrico
Yeah.
Henry, but now it's Henrico.
Okay. And give us kind of the lay of the land, what Henrico County, it encompasses this square mileage, amount of pipe, how many people in public works. Give us kind of the lay of the land.
Yeah. So all right. So our claim to fame in Henrico, we're one of two counties in Virginia that maintain our roads. So cities maintain their roads, counties don't. The state Department of Transportation maintains their roads. So that's what kind of makes us unique. You'll probably hear me talk more about that. But yeah, we've got the third largest road system in Virginia,
Okay.
which if you're in Virginia, that's a big deal. If you're not in Virginia, it's probably not. But yeah, my team, we currently maintain about 3,600 lane miles of road around the county. I've got a staff of about 300. And,
Okay.
we do more than roads, of course. We in addition to taking care of the roads and the signals, and we build the roads and we design the roads. We also handle land development activities. We've got an environmental section that handles environmental matters. We also buy and sell land for the county with our real property division. And not to forget my administrative group, but, a lot of money moving, money moving, and a lot of other transactions. So, yeah, it's a little bit what we got. We're about 330,000, a little bit more than that, and we're part of the greater Richmond metro area. So we wrap Richmond to the north, and we're probably about an hour 45 minutes from Washington D.C. Just to locate people that aren't familiar with the Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That helps us out for sure. So give us the day in the life of a random Tuesday for Terrell. From the time you get to the office to the time you leave, what's Terrell doing all day?
Random day. I mean, if you pick any day, I'm probably on the phone. I'm probably answering emails, text messages, things like that. In general, and there's usually a bit of meetings. The days that the days that you would think would worry you are the ones where I have a bunch of meetings because it's kind of regimented. The days that actually worry me are the ones that don't have anything in them because you never know what's going to pop up. You probably heard other people say those kind of things, but yeah, I don't think there's no 2 days are really alike, to be honest. I interact a lot with the residents of the county, which is really cool. I really enjoy that aspect of things. Trying to problem solve people I call it at the people level from a problem solving standpoint. But I mean, I'm involved in our GRTC. It's our transit organization. It's regional. There's a couple of other regional funding bodies that I'm involved in, and we've got a lot of project development meetings where we're designing sidewalk or designing road improvement projects, trying to tackle some of the congestion or safety challenges around the county. So those are any one of those things may pop up, or multiple of those may pop up in any given day.
I like your plight on, interacting with the residents. What does that look like? Is that a 2 hours a week? You force yourself to get out there and stand on the street corner and say, hey, what can we do to serve you? Or is it like you're at a community center and it's something set up or something less organic that gets you in front of the community member, just so others, if they want to implement that into their own schedule and kind of act the same?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing is, so we get a lot of email responses. So our board of supervisors is very active. We're out there on social media, so people know how to get in touch with our department with things. And every now and then you get situations where it comes to me, and I like the things that I like to deal with. So I try to deal with some of the things that, okay, have we taken a little long compared to what people want? Is this a little bit tougher situation where you need a little bit more high level input? because maybe it's a little bit more expensive to solve. So those are the types of things that I tend to get involved with. But yeah, I like face-to-face conversation. I kind of have this hierarchy. I always tell our team, the best conversation is in person. If you can't get in person, the next best is virtual, like what we're doing right now. If you can't get the virtual, pick up the phone and call. And then last two options are text and email. So if someone calls me, I like to call them back. If if someone emails me and they leave a phone number, I like to call them back. If it's a situation where I say yes, maybe I can just email it. But if it's something where I need to get some eyes on it, I'll try to set up an appointment with residents. So I do like that, and I tend to try to keep my Friday free, and that tends to be my field day where I go out and catch up with residents. But I don't do it all. I have a great team, and they also do a lot of basically what I'm saying, in person, phone call, and have a lot of interaction, because there's obviously too many interactions for me to handle personally. And why would I with a great team?
Sure. I get that. Speaking of in person, you and I met in person at the Mid-Atlantic APWA conference. It was an annual conference out in Ocean City, Maryland. It's a fun conference. Again, I met you there, and then I got wind of you winning an award. It's probably one of the reasons why you're there. So tell us about what the award was and kind of, how you went about winning that award.
Yeah, so I'm gonna claim Henrico Public Works. That's a win. Also, shout out to our PR department. But yeah, thank you APWA Mid Atlantic. That was a great shout out to Ocean City as well. Great conference at Ocean City. Thanks for them being the hosts. But yeah, no, we did a outreach campaign on pedestrian safety. So unfortunately, in Henrico, we've had in a lot of, I guess, urban suburban counties probably have the same issue, where we've been having trouble with pedestrian safety. So we unfortunately lost 14 people last year, and since 2020 we've lost too many people to getting hit by vehicles. So we launched a campaign really just urging the public to be aware of pedestrians. We've handed out over 100,000 reflective vests. We actually are in the middle of a project where we're handing out over 50,000 vests to every school child in Henrico County, as well as the teachers and their administration, because we're just trying to promote awareness. Also, nighttime safety. If people, if you're not wearing something reflective, people can't see you. So so that's what we ended up winning an award for, was our pedestrian outreach campaign. Like I said, I have to definitely give a shout out to. I'll shout out Beth San Martin. She definitely helped put that campaign together. We had commercials, we had social ads. Like I said, shout out to our libraries and police stations and rec and parks facilities as well for helping hand out events. We've got a community outreach team, our police department. Like it's been a full county-wide effort. The fire department, I'm probably missing people, which is probably a problem with shouting people out, but it's been a county-wide effort. So like I said, I'm happy to have been, to represent Henrico for that award.
Sure. And not to pat Beth on the back anymore, but it's one thing to deploy a program like that, but then it's also another thing to drive the PR around it, to be able to get the community members to know what's happening, or even, the issue that you're trying to solve. So I want to commend you on not only putting out the program, but also getting the, like you said, getting the news involved, getting the different entities involved, because again, if nobody knows about it, then it's a great program, but if they can't adopt it or talk more about it within their own communities, then it's, it can kind of fall flat. So with that, I think that's pretty cool. So let's dive into the backstory, to the origin story of the superhero of Terrell Hughes. You got to give us the kind of the career path of when you graduated high school all the way up until today.
High school to today. Oh man. Well, if that's okay, I'll start a little earlier than that. So yeah, I mean, anybody watching, I think a lot of times these engineering careers start young, real young. Not just because of the math classes and things like that, but the interest is usually there with tinkering and trying to figure things out. But yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to when I was a child. So my uncle, shout out to Terrell Hughes. He actually worked at VDOT, the Virginia Department of Transportation. He was in their traffic engineering division. He worked there. He did traffic signal designs, highway safety, things like that. And he found that I took an interest with cars and things like that. So when I was in middle school, he would do things like take me out to intersections and show me, hey, here's a controller cabinet. This is how a signal works.
Oh, cool.
A lot of things like that. And then what further cemented my interest in kind of getting in with road projects was when I was, that 12 to 14 age range. I spent a summer at my grandmother's house, and they were actually building a 4-lane road in front of her house. So we went through the whole process. We went through right-of-way acquisition. So, when we work with residents on buying land, my family's been through that. We went through the whole construction process where we saw basically a road get built in front of our eyes with sidewalks, street lights. So I got to see a lot of the different aspects of what it takes to construct a road, and I was hooked. I'll just say that. So, so I ended up after high school, I pretty much, I was kind of between architecture, civil engineering. I ended up picking civil engineering, went to Virginia Tech. So I'm a proud Hokie, go Hokies, of Virginia Tech, and came out with my civil engineering degree. While I was there, I had actually interned with a lot of private sector companies. And really when I first came out of school, I wanted to do some combination of consulting. Consulting was it. That's what I wanted to do. And I became a consultant. So a lot of my early parts of my career were in consulting, and was really cool serving clients. I like the customer service aspect. I like the amount of projects. I've been very fortunate with some of the different firms I work for to just get a great variety of projects, largely in traffic engineering. But I mean, I worked on road projects. I worked on just a variety of projects. I'll just put it that way. And then in 2016, I actually went to the state. So I had an opportunity, did some staff augmentation on the public sector side, and got to experience what the public sector was. I liked it. So in 2016, I went over to VDOT, and I worked there until 2020 when this opportunity to come to Henrico County Public Works came up. And honestly, for me, it was a dream come true coming into a public works department as the public works director, getting to essentially run a city from a road standpoint, even though we're a county. But because we maintain our own roads, there's so many aspects of public works that's very interesting, and been very fortunate to get into public works. But yeah, I think a lot of hard work along the way. I probably skipped a bunch of steps, but
no,
I think being a nerd probably put me that way. Just really geeking out over roads.
So you flipped the coin, and you had architecture versus it's engineering or it's civil engineering. Do you ever get to scratch that architectural itch? Like any personal hobbies, anything you do on the side, or anything within your work that you can scratch that architecture itch?
Yeah, no, that's kind of funny. So that's one of the things me and my wife have in common. I kind of wanted to do architecture. She actually was in interior design when she was at Virginia Tech, and she ended up switching over to more of a graphic. She does more media now, and of course I went with civil engineering. So the one thing we do have in common with the architecture side, we like houses. We do the open house tours. We watch HGTV. We're big on the renovations. I'm not going to call that architecture. I'm not going to do a disservice because there's some amazing designs that architects do that So, but no, that's how I kind of scratch that itch a little bit with architecture. But it's really cool seeing the buildings and the those types of things.
Yeah.
I always kind of like that aspect, but just something about those roads, man.
Yeah. Something about those roads. Keep calling your name. A concept you spoke of early when you're giving your answer on how you got into the industry, your Uncle Earl.
Yeah.
You had the uncle that kind of showed you or exposed you to certain things in the industry that got you hooked. It hooked you into it, and throughout the rest of your, let's say, high school, college, you stayed close to it. How can others be that Uncle Earl to somebody in their community? How can others be that Uncle Earl to somebody in their family, whether they're related to them or not, to kind of expose them to things that they might not be familiar with, and not necessarily force them into a career path, but just guide them and expose them to certain different things that they might not be used to.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, first I'll say shout out. I give a big shout out to any trailblazers out there. You know, any first of. So like my uncle, he was the
Oh,
first engineer in the family. You know, a lot of times, you know, at some point somebody was the first woman, someone was the first minority, someone was the first of. So shout out to the trailblazers because I mean, I think a lot of times when you're a kid, seeing is believing. So when you see someone that comes from a similar background as you or looks similar to you, it kind of gives you that belief that that is something that you can do. And I think that was always something that with my uncle and the confidence and you know my parents that you know yeah this is something that you could do. So it was always seen as an option as opposed to something that was unattainable. So if you're somebody that's in an area, you know, get out there, you know, get out, you know, volunteer at the elementary schools, go to community events, just be seen, and encourage people that, you know, hey, you could do this too. You know, I don't want to put on airs like there's something super special about me other than I had exposure at a young enough age where I could you know the arrow was directed in a certain direction and I was able to work hard and you know with a plan and hard work you can achieve. But I think a big part of that was having that belief, and I think that belief kind of came from having that mentor in my uncle who you know he was there, he blazed that trail and I saw it. So yeah, so I mean anybody out there, you know, if you want to encourage somebody that you know to follow us in the craft, you know, get out and you know volunteer, go to school events and
Yeah.
you know the career days and things like that, and just build confidence in the young generation, that next generation. And I don't want to, you know, here's another cool thing with my uncle. And this, I mean, so my uncle actually got a civil engineering degree as an adult.
Okay.
So he was working and went back to school while he was working
That's
and
tough.
got a civil engineering degree, you know, and then eventually, you know, got it, graduated, eventually became a professional engineer,
Yeah.
all of those things. Um, you know, I'm kind of talking about going right out of high school, going into college or whatever. But I mean, do your path,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I think that there's inspiration in that as well. So whatever your path is, especially if it was maybe what we would not consider conventional, I really would encourage you to encourage, you know, someone else to
Sure.
follow in your footsteps because I think seeing is believing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Let's talk about public versus private. You went to the private side first and then you found your way at VDOT and now you're at Henrico County. Would you advise others to do that also? Start on the public side, maybe get that wide breadth of different types of projects you take on, and then, you know, when you feel the time is right, jump to the public side and have a more of a, I don't know, a less risky, you know, a position where you can focus on just your corner of the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's pluses to both, honestly. You know, I think there's some advantages to doing public sector than going or private sector than going to public sector or going public sector to private sector or staying as private sector or staying as public sector. Honestly, there's advantages to all of them. I mean, I think in my path, yeah, I think having worked it, and I like I said, credit to where I worked. I definitely got an opportunity to work on both private sector type projects, which is like private land development. I worked on the private side. I
Mhm.
also worked on public sector side while I was a private sector employee. If that
Sure.
makes sense. So as a
Yeah.
consultant, I did work for cities, counties, and
Yeah.
towns, as well as the state DOT. So I did get a variety of types of projects, um, and kind of saw some different perspectives and got actual design experience, which is what I wanted to do. But no, I don't know if I'll advise one or the other because I think if you come out from the school and you go to the public sector side, you might there's a lot more customer service. You're dealing with residents. You're managing the projects from a client standpoint, and that's a perspective that also has skills that you have to acquire and learn over time that you wouldn't necessarily get as a private sector employee.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if I'm going to advise one
Okay.
way or another.
It's fair.
I think it just kind of, what are you looking to do?
Uh,
Do you like to serve the community that you live in? Um, Public sector is very rewarding for that.
mm,
Um, not that private sector isn't, because you can also serve your community that you work in with private sector, but
yeah.
it's what do you want to do? And I think a lot of the folks that work here at the county that I'm familiar with, there's a heart for the community, and you get to really display that. There's a lot of connectivity. You know, yeah, we're public works, but we're also engaged with the matters, things that police are doing in the community. What's our
Yeah.
parks doing in the community? What are libraries doing in the community? So there's a
Mm,
bigger picture that you get connected to as being part of a local government
sure.
that you don't necessarily get as a private sector employee. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But I guess for me, I benefited skill wise, private sector, but I'm also now getting the rewards
Yeah.
of service, being a public servant.
Gotcha. Let's say a youngster just got awarded the public works director job at a city across the country, and they call you and they say, Terrell, what is the main skill set they should pick up to be successful at what you currently do? What would that skill set be?
Number one skill set, huh? I mean, I'm a hard work person. I love hard work, but that's not a skill. Anyone can do hard work. So if hard work is something you don't do, you can do it. So I'm not going to call hard work a skill. But no, the biggest skill I would say is communication. So communication is key. The problem with most people's understanding with communication is they think communication is me talking
Mm,
is communication, and communication is actually a two-way street.
mm,
So when I say work on your communication as a skill, it's listening, use the two ears,
yeah.
and then talking, so there's kind of got to be a little 2-to-1 ratio, I think,
Okay.
to use math term or whatever. But
Sure.
yeah, really listening. So I mean, as part of being a public works director, we're listening to the public. We are listening to the elected officials. No one elected me. I'm hired. The public elected the elected officials, so we need to listen to what
Uh,
they're wanting. We need to listen to our staff, and then we take that listening and we compile and we formulate what we need to do. Because you want to make a great work environment for your staff.
yeah.
You want to accomplish what the public wants. You want to accomplish what the elected leaders who are going to be held accountable are, what their constituents want. So it takes a lot of listening. And then there's also, when we do make a decision, it's being effective at communicating why. Big thing is why.
Yeah.
Why you're doing what you're doing. Then you can get to the what. But if people don't understand why, just good luck.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah,
Okay.
communication, big time.
Okay. All right. In regards to communication, let's take off the public works director hat and put on Terrell, the youth football coach hat. What are some of the parallels in regards to being a public works director and also being a football coach? What are some of the things that you might, I guess, concept wise, you take from the office and can apply it on the field, and even taking something from the field and applying it in the office?
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's a good question. So the big thing I would say with both public works as a public works director and as football as a coach, the public works director doesn't really play the game.
Mm,
And if you're a
that's
football
tough.
coach,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're a football coach, you don't play the game.
You
The
want to.
players-
Yeah.
You want to play it,
Yeah.
but the players have to play. So it's up to the players to do things. So as a coach, your job is to get the team in the best possible position to execute their plays. You want to empower your team. You want to get them prepped. You want to make sure they have what they need before the game. As a youth football coach, you spend that whole week prepping for who you're going to play, what you're going to see. Hey, you be here. Your job is here. Your responsibility is this. If you see this, I need you to do this. So you're working through the dynamics, but at the end of the day, they have to play the game. So you have to trust the player. So that's very similar to the public works director because, I'm not the guy in the great all or the backhoe. I'm not up in the bucket truck fixing the signal or cleaning the road with the down, when there's a down tree.
Yeah.
But I have the budget responsibility. I need to make sure my team has good equipment, that they have safe equipment, that they have, a great environment for them to thrive in. And I need to make sure that they're ready, so whatever that is. But they have to play the game, and I appreciate that. So there's that mutual respect. So anything I can do to support, same thing with my players, anything I can do to help support the players in the game. So that's one of the aspects that I would kind of, I'd say there's a parallel. Now, I get a lot more mad at football than I do.
Why is that? Why can't you get mad at a signal coordinator or a street paver versus your running back, and he did pick up the blitz?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a person that worked for Public Works that I yelled at. If you talk to any of my players, they might have a different experience. So I'd say that's probably where the parallels kind of diverge a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. I did a story from Terrell when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh man. So what's hard about this question is what's hard about it is it's hard to pick an example because there's so many. But no, let me tell you, I'm gonna go with one that so I back in the day, I say back in the day, it was a long time ago, but when I was a consultant, I was actually training a VDOT training class, and it was kind of funny, when you're the trainer, you're the expert. So when you're the expert, you know everything, right? Because you're in front of the room.
You got the microphone.
You got the microphone. So we got into a point where I actually got a question from somebody in the audience, very smart person. And they asked me a question and they wanted to know an answer. And honestly, I didn't really know the answer. But I kind of tried to fudge the answer a little bit, just kind of go away. All right, I answered it. And he was like, wait a minute, that's not clear. That doesn't make any sense. So I get the follow-up question. Then I try to, I'm doubling down now. I'm going deeper into the abyss of you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
Sounds like marriage, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at some point, it got very clear that I didn't know the answer, and that's when the other instructor, more senior than me, came in and was like, "Hey, we'll take your question at lunch. Like, nothing more to see here. Let's move on. But honestly, that was a humbling experience because you're out there, you're the expert, and you didn't know the answer, and then I obviously made a fool of myself. Everyone in the class now knows that I didn't know the answer either. It was kind of funny. So this person ended up being a future coworker of mine. We ended up, so we get along really well. And I actually had another future coworker of mine actually come save. He was like, "Hey man, I saw you were struggling up there. This is actually the answer." Like showed me the answer, during the session. He had felt that empathy, but the reality is I probably lost a little credibility with the crowd that I had, probably had some credibility with the, earlier in the day when I was dealing with the class, or the day before when I was dealing with the class. And, the guy that I was doing the training with, who's mentor figure, shout out to Tim White, by the way. It's Tim White. We had a car ride back and we had a talk about like, hey, what happened, and walk me through that, and then, hey, so what should you do differently on that? So I mean, it was really good. It ended up being a great experience for me because since that time I've trained a lot of other classes. I've had other opportunities where I've spoken in front of people. I'm in a technical world, so every time I talk in front of a crowd, like everyone's smarter than me, So, what I'm saying, there's a lot of really smart people, so you get a lot of questions, and I learned to just say, what, if I don't know the answer, that's a great question. I'll get back to you, or let me look that up. And I think for a lot of us, and maybe it's a guy thing. I'm going to blame guys. Sorry. We kind of get that confidence where we just kind of feel like we have
Yep.
to know the answer. We have
Yep.
to be right. Like,
It's our ego.
yeah. And I think sometimes we need to humble ourselves and if we don't know the answer, just be honest and just say, yeah, I don't know the answer. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Honestly, don't know. And I think that really helped me out with my career. So yeah, I ended up, pretty much apologizing. And that's another, moment where it's like, hey
Yeah.
guys, sorry, I didn't know the answer to this. Just explaining. And out of that, I think I built a lot of credibility with a lot of the folks that were in that class. Like I said, I just mentioned future coworkers, people that I interact with still to this day. Out of that, so that was what you would call maybe a save face moment. But I mean, I had to own it.
Yeah.
And I so out of that, I learned when you make mistakes, you own them. That's the big lesson. You own them. You don't make excuses. You just cut right to the chase, and you make and then let's worry about what the solution to that mistake is. So
Yeah.
I've kind of embodied that going forward. When I make a mistake, I own it. When I own it, I'm focusing on the solution after that. Not how do I blame someone else or how do I hide.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Thanks for sharing that with us. What does Terrell do intentionally to keep showing up better and better year after year? I mean, you're the director, you've worked public, private, you could just put your feet on the desk and say, I know everything, I've seen it all, nothing new under the sun, but what do you do to intentionally put new information in your brain to make you work more efficiently?
Man, yeah, I think the first part is as me. I just show up. I think I know everything.
Don't we all? Yeah.
Honestly, there is not a day that goes by that I don't learn something new. Honestly, every day I come into work, I'm constantly being blown away with just the talent of people I work with, and we run into new problems. We run into new things. There's people that have been here a lot longer than me, and they tell you stories about how they solved an issue or how they did this or that. So I'd be remiss if I didn't give some credit to my coworkers for really enriching me with information. So when I'm the director, but I have experts that work in areas of things, and when I have opportunities to interact with people, I like to hear what their thoughts are, their opinions. I like to be educated by my team. I like to constantly really hear from them on what they're doing, and I learned something new just working with some of the experts. I love talking to people who've been at the county a lot longer than me and hearing their stories and their mistakes so that I don't have to do the same mistake. And I really value that time. I like to eat a lot of lunches with staff. I like to eat a lot of lunches with staff so I can get that, because have you ever heard the phrase, a lot more in life is caught versus taught?
Yep.
So the only way to catch it is to be around people. But no, I mean, I read a lot of articles. I'm a LinkedIn scroller and I'm looking to see what other cities are doing. And I'm like, oh, they're doing this. Okay. Oh, that, I'm looking to see what people are doing. Cause I'm like, if it's something that worked somewhere else and they've kind of got over the hurdle in another locality, I don't have to start from square zero with my problem. I can kind of go from there. So, yeah, and we can get into it and put a little tweak. We can put a Henrico spin on it, or on the problem and or the type of project. But I do like that. Every now and then I'll read. I mean, like I said, shout out to Bill Stark, one of the Leader Gov. He sent me a few books, and there's been some good books that I've liked to that have helped me, honestly. There's a book called actually I got it right here. This is a book, I don't know if you know this one, Growing Weeders into Leaders, Jeff McManus.
No.
I wonder if you can see it.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to plug a book on your podcast, but anyways, it's a good book. I mean, because he's over like the grounds at Ole Miss University, and
Oh,
and he took over, and he took over the team and kind of goes about how he mentors and has built up his team. His team is field staff. You know, staff that works. It's not as much office staff. So
yeah,
I thought, I mean, got that recommendation. They sent me the book. And I mean, it's really cool kind of hearing what they did to kind of get their team engaged. And they've actually won, you know, I didn't know this, but you can win national championships in having the best campus. Ole
no
Miss
way.
apparently has a beautiful campus now.
Really?
And they've been recognized for, you know, for having that. And their team has championship rings for being recognized by that. But so it's kind of cool, and being a sports guy, just kind of seeing how someone has built their team up. It was really cool. So, but like I said, that came from networking, connecting, talking with other people. Not on my. I mean, that's not stuff that I do on my own. So it's nice being around people that are that know things, and you can kind of get pointers from people.
Sure.
So yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
All right. What would you say is the biggest misconception about what you do? Like, let's say we asked your wife's best friend, like, what does Terrell do all day? What does he do for the community? What would she get totally wrong in answering that question?
Yeah, no, I laughed because one day I had my son with me, and I think he had completely different idea about what I do all day than what I do. I think he was a little disappointed.
How old is he?
He's
Or at the time?
14.
It's okay.
Yeah, 14. He was one summer, and I needed some help. I'm a mess. Like my office every now and then gets a mess. I'm like, don't give me paper because I don't throw it away, or I don't. it just sits on my desk. I look busy. So I had my son. He was looking for some money, and I was like, you know what? Come in. You can send sort some files for me and whatever. So he came and helped me out. But yeah, I mean, I think my wife, everybody, my wife knows I'm a pencil pusher. She calls me a pencil pusher.
Okay. The respect. I love it.
She calls me a pencil pusher. But yeah, I think my son, I don't know what he thought I did. I guess he thought I actually built the roads, and I don't know what he thought I did. And I guess he was a little disappointed to learn that I'm on Zoom meeting or Teams meetings, and you know, I have meetings in the office, and you know, I'm on the phone quite a bit, and
Yeah.
things like that. You know, as much as I'd love to get out and about, and if you looked at my phone, you would see all kinds of cool things with me at construction sites, and you know, doing some cool things, sightseeing at different events, ribbon cutting or whatever. And I mean, that's like a picture.
Just a picture.
The movie has a lot more office time and just coordinating and reviewing plans and on the phone with engineering consultants trying to troubleshoot things and things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think people probably think I'm out and about doing a lot more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so I deal mostly with the silver tsunami in the industry. You know, those who are of age, they're leaving the industry in droves, and we're not getting enough talent to backfill. My question to you is, what has Henrico done, or what have you seen across the country that you feel like has worked or could work in regards to making sure the new talent that comes in can get competent as quick as possible, or even backfill as efficient as the amount of people leaving the industry?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm dealing with that right now. My assistant director, I'll give him a shout out too, Todd Yor, you know, 35 years at the county, just retired. Wealth of knowledge, knew everything about our transportation department, how to get projects built, knew everything about transit, just a wealth of knowledge with traffic engineering and a lot of other things. And we knew he was retiring, and we, you know, it's just, I think a lot of us tried to absorb as much as we could while he was here. You know, I think it's nice when you have employees like him who announce ahead of time when they want to retire, and they take a conscious, you know, it's a big decision. They make the decision that they want to leave behind the knowledge. So they spend time with the younger staff, and they spend time with just leadership and different people to make sure that there is a transfer and a transition of knowledge. They you know, it's nice having people like that have a pride in what they do to make sure that the work will continue with the transition. And we've
Yeah.
seen a lot of you know, we've had some great foremen and construction inspectors and you know, just different folks that work in our in public works in our field have, you know, hit that 30, 40. We've had 50-year employees
Wow.
retire. Just
50.
wealth of knowledge. When I say 50-year employees, we've had 3 retire
Yeah.
since I've been here. So I mean, we wealth of knowledge. Um, but they, you know, one thing I've seen in common with them is they, you know, they were trying to mentor up and raise up that next generation
Yeah.
while they're here. So I can't really take credit for that. There's no sauce in that because that culture was long baked
Yeah.
that those individuals wanted to share. But I mean, one of the things we have seen at the county, and we have brought a few people back part time after they've retired. We have a program called Encore, where they come back in, they make the same money they made when they retire, and they can come in and work, you know, flexible part time shifts. You know, it could just be case by case basis. So, you know, so we've got a few what I call cheat codes. You know, some folks that have the cheat sheet that we can call and bring them in for special assignments because they have that wealth of knowledge, the historical. You know, we can, you know, put them in a room with a younger staff member that's coming in, and then
Yeah.
that transfer of knowledge starts to happen just by conversations and things like that. But no, I mean, there's a lot of great, you know, a lot of people that did a lot of great things are, I'm not going to say unfortunate. I'm happy for them. They're retiring and they're living their best lives now. And they've left the next generation with the baton, and now we have to run with it.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it's up to us to take what they have and continue and you know, and improve. You know, that you know, that's my goal. That's my task. I'm not just trying to keep things from falling apart. I want to make it better.
Yeah.
So you know, that's the challenge for this. You know, the next generation is, all right. Take what they have and raise them.
Yeah.
Not competitively, just that's your job. Just,
Well, it
you
should
know,
be.
yeah, that should be the goal. Don't you know, don't just have the goal of, all right, I hope it doesn't fall apart.
While I'm under my watch. Yeah.
Yeah, let's make it better.
Gotcha. I like that Encore program. I feel like more people should know about that, or more agencies should, you know, should adopt something like that. All right. Let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Henrico County. What ask of your community in regards to public works would you put on this billboard?
Whew, I mean, that might change day to day. You know, some days it's slow down with all the speeding. You know, could be something related to pedestrians. Could be um, since you asked me today, I'm gonna mention litter.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna mention litter. So you know, I think it'd be something related to you know, you know, take care of your community. You know, don't litter. You know, because that's something that we end up picking up
Yeah.
on our end. It's fresh on my mind because that's where we were doing today. We had crews out picking up litter and trash, trying to keep the community beautiful. You know,
Really?
I think as part of taking that pride in the community, you know, the um, litter's not ideal, um, but you know, as part of us mowing and you know all the other things that we do to try to keep the community beautiful.
Yeah.
There's that, and then you start mentioning, you know, mixing in some of the environmental impacts. That stuff, where does it go? It goes into the waterways. It goes into the creeks. It's actually been raining for the last 3 days here
Wow.
in Richmond, and we get, you know, when you get rain like that, it fills up the creeks. It fills up the waterways. So those floatables, they get up into the bushes and the trees, and when that water recedes, we kind of see the impacts in the creeks and streams, and you know, so that'd be what I would mention.
Okay. Okay. Litter it is. All right. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. And then I want you to give a word of inspiration and motivation, like a, you know, your football team pep talk to your fellow public works directors across the country.
You said inspirational motivation. Oh man, no, I definitely want to thank. Man, where to go? So yeah, I'm gonna thank my parents first, Eric, Sylvia Hughes. Shout out to my parents. They, you know, that they're everything to me. I also want to thank my wife, Brittany, big time support throughout my entire career. We met in college, so she's been here for the whole ride. So without her, would not be able to do what I do. Um, Also, grandma passed, but Mabel Fountain, helped raise me. I think a lot of what I am is everything she taught me to be. But professionally, my uncle Earl Hughes, got me going. He introduced me, got me connected with a guy named Tim White, um, who helped me a lot professionally, in a lot of different ways. Also, shout out to Jennifer Devon, um, Scott Dunn. I will shout Danny Lammy out as well. I'm going to give some credit to John Davenport. I will give a shout out to Chad Tucker. And I'm going to give a shout out to Charlie Rasnick. Those are all folks that mentored me along the way. Chessa Faulkner with, and then currently here at the county, I've got a great county manager, John Vitolkis, who's been very helpful, and my boss, who I talk to every day and is my mentor, Supreme, Steve Yob. So definitely give a shout out to all of them. I think I want to give a lot of credit to the folks that that came before me in roles and left me with a lot of nuggets, like my guy. I guess I'll lead this into my pep talk for public works directors. Honestly, a couple great sayings that I heard along the way. If you can't sell it, you can't build it. And I'm like, who came up with that? So, you honestly have to explain to the public what you're doing.
Wow.
We're technical people. We live in a political world. Meaning, I think sometimes technical people were kind of matter of fact. Of course, we would do it this way. And we kind of have to understand that we work for the public, so we have to also kind of get some agreement. So I understand that it's kind of tough sometimes. Budgets may not ever seem like enough. The work seems insurmountable. The challenges are there. We've got great teams, but we also deal with our challenges and things like that. But just a pep talk to all the public works directors. The work is worth it, man. Like serving our communities is worth it. If you weren't doing that job, who would? Who would be in that role leading that public works organization? Who would take care of the roads, the water, the sewer? So if not you, who else? So wear that mantle proudly. That you're the person that is stewarding, and you're stewarding over it because it's not yours. You don't own the roads. You're the steward of those roads. So you're the steward of that department. So wear that mantle proudly. You don't, I'm in Henrico County. There's one public works director. So I'm just very appreciative of it. So any other public works director, whatever their locality is, man, wear that mantle proudly, take it with pride, and, forget the challenges. Just plow ahead.
Okay. What's yeah. You're a football coach, public works director, but I see a Liverpool hat behind you.
Oh yeah.
Are you also a fan of the Reds? Tell me about it.
I am a fan of the Reds. I am a fan of the Reds. Yeah, I've been following Liverpool, I guess, since the Steven Gerrard days.
Okay.
So I kind of came on board, So big time Liverpool fan. Was sad to see my man, the manager Jurgen Klopp leave, but then our new guy Arne Slot has come in and immediately won the Premier League. So for all.
Where do we go to a game?
What's that?
Where do we go to a game?
Hey, we need to plan that out.
Plan it, baby.
I have never been to Liverpool.
I haven't. I've been to the UK. I've never been that far north, I haven't been to Liverpool. So I'd love to go.
We got to plan that out. Yeah, I've got that on my list. I don't want to call it a bucket list, but it.
I tell my wife every year, we gotta go. Let's figure it out. With these young kids, it's tough. But one of these years, you'll see me in the stands wearing my red, man.
Oh yeah. No, it's cool. But no, like I said, Premier League champs. Very proud about it. It's good seeing someone other than Man City win it. I think I would have been happy with someone other than Man City winning it. I'm very happy that our club won.
For sure. All right, Terrell, let's say I'm coming to town. I'm coming to Richmond, Virginia. I text you ahead of time. I say, Terrell, where can I go to get the best burger in town? Where are you sending me?
Oh, you're gonna put me on that. Whew, best burger in town, man. Yeah, I see. My personal favorite burger is a place called Jack Brown's.
Jack Brown's. Okay.
I like Jack Brown's burgers. There's a lot of good places to get burgers, but it's just something about Jack Brown's burgers. I think
Okay.
like the Wagyu beef.
Ooh.
And I like the size of the burgers, the proportion. It's not too big, not too small.
Okay.
Yeah, I can kind of mess with Jack Brown's.
All right, Jack Brown's it is.
Good.
Well, Terrell, thanks for hopping on the podcast today. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Terrell, any final words before we get out of here?
No, for anybody listening, thanks for listening, and best wishes to everybody out there.
All right. Well, Terrell, once again, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah,
This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you everybody for tuning in.